Okay, one of the first types of questions that you guys are going to see on your final, most likely, you guys have already seen. This is very similar to exam number 3. They're going to give you a picture of a graph, and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions about that graph. So, starting out, there we go, there are my pens. Okay, first type of question they may ask. It says, find the domain of f. Okay, if I'm looking at this function here, I can tell domain values are x values, and I can tell I've got some stuff going on here, I've got some stuff going on here, and I got some stuff going on here. Okay, now, my domain values approximately are going to run from negative infinity up until it looks about negative 2, and then I've got from about negative 2 to about negative 2, and I've got from 2 on to infinity. What's going on in this with our domain? Well, we have some asymptotes in there. There is a vertical asymptote running down here on negative 2. There's also a vertical asymptote running here on 2. Okay? So, when I write this, I'm probably going to write this in interval notation, which means that I'm going to write my answer from negative infinity to negative 2, and I've got parentheses there because I'm not including negative 2 because there is an asymptote there. Okay? Then I'm also going to run, so in union with, I'm going to run from negative 2 to 2, parentheses because of the asymptote, and then another in union with, I'm going to run from 2, not including it because of the asymptote, to infinity. So there is my domain. Okay, that's my domain. Part B says the value of the zeros of f. What are the zeros of f? The zeros of f would be your x-intercepts. So if you don't remember, your zeros are your x-intercepts. Okay, zeros are x-intercepts. So where does this graph have an x-intercept at? Looks like the only place that it intercepts would be right here. Okay, I don't see any other places where it crosses the x-axis. So if you see zeros, that's your x-intercept. And the value of that x-intercept, or the value of our zero, would be 0. Okay, as for the value, it's asking for the y value. The approximate value of f of 1. F of 1, that 1 means that my x equals 1. So where on this graph does my x equal 1 at? Well, my x is going to equal 1 somewhere along this line. So what can we say the approximate value is right there? Well, if you notice, this graph is moving by 2, so I'm going to say my approximate y value of that is negative 1. Okay? So the approximate value of f of 1, so that's saying my x equals 1. So what's my y value when my x equals 1? Looks like it's about negative 1. Question D. Erase some of this stuff up here. Question D says the equation of the vertical asymptotes. Okay? I should have erased those, but I already did. We had a vertical asymptote running here and a vertical asymptote running here. Okay? When we say our vertical asymptotes, remember it has to be x equals. And x equals negative 2. And then we have another one at x equals 2. So those are our two options for that. I can have x equals negative 2. I can have x equals 2. Part E says the number f of x approaches as x approaches infinity. That one's kind of confusing. Well, let's think about it. F of x is the same thing as y, correct? So we're saying as my x approaches infinity, as my x is moving towards infinity. So my x is moving towards infinity. My x is moving towards infinity. What is my y value approaching? So here's my graph. And as it's approaching infinity, notice that it's starting to level off. It's leveling off because we have a horizontal asymptote there. So what is the y value for that horizontal asymptote? Well, it looks to me like that y value, oops, I kind of scrolled up too far. Looks to me like that y value is about at 3. Trying to work these pins here, sorry. It looks like it's approaching the y value of 3. So my answer, the number f of x approaches. As x approaches infinity, well, my y value approaches 3. F. It asks us the interval on which f is increasing. Okay, I'm going to erase again. Now, let's think about this here. What's a function going to look like as it's increasing? Well, your function is going to be going up if it increases, right? So where do we see our function going up at? I see it going up here, and I see it going up here. Okay? So the intervals on which it's increasing. I could say that from negative infinity all the way up to negative 2, it's increasing. I can also say that from negative 2 to 0, it is increasing. Okay? So I'm going to say it just like that in my interval notation. I'm going to say that from negative infinity to negative 2, it's increasing. Then I'm going to put in union with from negative 2 to 0, it is increasing. I have parentheses around those because at 0, it's neither increasing or decreasing. The change is occurring. I'm also not including negative 2 because at negative 2, there's an asymptote. So it's not doing anything at negative 2. Okay? They could also ask you that same question about where it's decreasing. Okay? If they ask us on this one where it's decreasing at, well, it looks like there it's decreasing, and there it's decreasing. Okay? The next question on there asks us where our f of x is less than 0. When they mention f of x, again, you want to make sure that you're saying f of x and y are the same thing. So they're asking you guys here on question G, where is my y value less than 0? Where is my y value less than 0? Well, if I look up here at my graph, my y values run up and down. Okay? So if I'm looking at this, anything below this asymptote has y values that are less than 0, right? And I said asymptote, I'm sorry. Anything below that axis is where my y values are less than 0. So this part up here and this part here, are those parts having a y value less than 0? No, they are not. Their y values are greater than 0. The only spot where my y value is less than 0 is this part right here. There is, however, one point. Is that point right there? Is that point less than 0? No, that point equals 0. So I can say that it's less than 0 from negative 2 to 2, except at the exact value of 0. So I cannot include that 0 there because at that point, it equals 0. So when I write my answer for this one, I'm not going to write negative 2 to 2 because that's not correct. I'm going to write negative 2 to 0 in union with 0 to 2. So basically what that's saying there in green is that's saying that I'm going from negative 2 to 0, but I'm not including 0. And I'm going from 0 to 2, but I'm not including 0. Okay? So I'm running from, essentially, negative 2 to 2, but I'm leaving out this 0 in the middle. Okay? And then the last one, question H, is basically asking the same thing as question C, but question H is saying the values of x for which f of x means y. So I want to know the values of x when my y equals 4. So let's go up to our graph here. The values of x when our y value is 4. Okay. Where is my y value 4 at? Well, anywhere here, I have a y value of 4. So I see a point here that it intersects at, and I see a point here. So what are the x values when y equals 4? Well, this has an x value of -4, and this has an x value of 4. So my answer for this one, what values of x does my y equals 4? Well, I could say -4 and 4. There are a multitude of different questions that they can ask you guys about on here. Okay, there are a multitude of different questions that they can ask you guys. So the best thing we can do is we can just practice understanding this graph. Okay,